Hello there and welcome. This is Insight. And Insight today, we have a guest. A name you have heard before. He hasn't been on TV quite a lot, but we have him here on Insight today. And we found him right in Johannesburg at his headquarters. He is no other than Mr. Simbi Phiri. Welcome to the program, Mr. Phiri.
Thank you.
It's good to have you today. Now, first things first, who is Simbi Phiri?
Wow. Seems simple, but loaded question. Simbi Phiri, as you can see, I'm an African, a Bantu from Southern Africa. Born of my father from Malawi, Nkoma, Chembe village, and my mother from Donoda village, 30 kilometers south of Francistown. And yeah, that's me. Grown up in Southern Africa like any other black person. Yes, but I grew up mainly in Malawi. Yeah, I arrived in Malawi with my mom and dad in 1967. And you can imagine, I started school at Nkoma Primary. Went on to St. John Bosco, and then moved on to Botswana. Then here in Johannesburg. Yeah.
What were you doing in Botswana, for example?
In Botswana, mainly, it was easy for me migrating out of Malawi, going where there are cousins, there are uncles, there are aunties. So I didn't have a problem than if I had wanted to go to Europe, where I would have gone into the dark. So in Botswana, I went and I did my studies there and worked in Botswana before I moved to Johannesburg. Yes.
You founded Khato Group that
Yes.
now has two companies, Khato Civils and South Zambezi Consulting Engineering. How did this come into being?
Well, I would have said to some before, I am a businessman, basically from the beginning. When I worked in Botswana, really it was formatively 5 years only. The rest I've never worked for anybody. I have always done, but I saw a niche in the construction and engineering business, which made me study construction management. Then I would understand the whole spectrum of the business. So when I then worked with the company we call LTE, we were three of us, an Indian guy and two black guys. We made, probably it was the most successful black engineering company in South Africa at the time before I left them to start Khato Civils and South Zambezi on my own.
And it wasn't so long, 15 years ago.
Yes.
How have you built this reputation to these headquarters we see here and every other investment that you have made in 15 years?
Well, you see, when you have a purpose to make money and achieve certain things with that money, the purpose really was to, one, to be relevant in the business. To be relevant is you have to understand that there are already other players in the business. These players are well established over 50 years, 60 years. Now, what will I add on as a value? I saw the niche that most projects were not finishing on time, even here in Johannesburg. I decided that when I embark on projects, I want to do it 6 months ahead of time. If it's 2 years, if I can do that in 14 months or 12 months, actually. And I've done this successfully. People do keep projects going on for many years because they want the value to go up with CPI and other variations. I decided to forgo CPI and variations, but to get the reputation of a person who delivers on time and in time and before time. For that I have achieved. If you ask anybody in Johannesburg, from the politicians that were responsible for the initiative of the projects, and the officials who oversaw us doing they will tell you they've never seen any construction company do what Khato and South Zambezi are doing.
I'd be interested in the source of funding. What was your source of funding at the point you left LTE to establish Khato Civils?
Oh, yes. Well, remember, or should I say, at LTE I was a shareholder and director. So therefore, I accumulated quite a good amount of money. As I said, we were a successful black engineering company. When you're successful, you deliver projects, but you also make money. We were not an NGO, so we were making profit. So we had quite a good amount of money that we made, which I saved to invest in equipment at Khato, because Khato came first before South Zambezi. Yeah, so yes, that was my source. As we worked at LTE, I saved quite a good amount of money. I didn't go to Europe or Singapore or Dubai or Rio de Janeiro to spend money. No, I saved. Yes.
To that, if you would be honest, how much are you worth?
Well, wealthy is very difficult to say because, nothing is, in terms of money does not really exist. It's the things that money can bring to you. So if you asked me whether I'm satisfied with what I have, I'm not.
You're not?
No.
People call you back home a millionaire, a multi-billionaire. Which one do you prefer?
Well, depending which currency you are talking about. I mean, really. But I must also be honest that I have made some money. That's really a sizable amount of money to be comfortable. I have properties, which I know that the value, because if you have money in rands, tomorrow the rand goes down and all that. So you really, before you finish mentioning the figure has already changed. So I wouldn't want to say much about what one would have in liquidity, but let's talk about values in real estate. Yeah, that would be in rands, would be in the region of 700. Yeah.
700 million rands.
Yeah.
Now, you have been so quiet, if I may say, back home in Malawi, despite amassing all these investments here in South Africa and elsewhere. Where have you been? Why have you been hiding?
No, I really haven't hidden at all. It's just like, as I said, when I do things, I'm not doing it for the public or for anyone else to give me a handshake or a clap. No, I'm doing it because I feel comfortable with myself. When it became necessary for me to have interviews like this is why I'm making myself available. I've been there, really, to be honest with you. I've been very much around. I've been in Malawi. I've put up that cluster estate next to the stadium. There it is. It's been there for the past 4 years that we've been building them. I've put up my farm in Mchinji. It's quite an address, and that takes time. So I have not really been hiding at all. Only that I'm not a publicity guy. No. Yeah, that is gonna come now. Yeah.
Getting into business.
Yes.
You have been awarded the $500 million Lake Malawi Water Project.
Yes.
In conjunction with the Lilong Water Board. There have been concerns back home.
Yes.
People didn't see any bidding in public. How did you come to be picked for the job?
Well, in construction there are processes. There's what we call open tender and closed tender. Closed tender is when a client knows a few guys who are the best in the business. For example, I would give you, South Africa is looking for nuclear plants. They're not going to ask bidders like Khato to do that. They will definitely call upon the Russians, the French, the Americans, and the Japanese to build the nuclear plant. So this is called closed tender. It's not open because the people, here the client knows who are the best people to do the job. So here, firstly, you must understand that there was the Malawi Investment Forum in which I was invited in. And we looked at the projects, and we looked at the Lilongwe Salima water project, which really was necessary since there was no water in Lilongwe. I felt I had an obligation to rise up and help the country at this point. And I went to Malawi most of the time just for myself. This time there was a national crisis of water shortages in Lilongwe, the capital. So I thought I have an entity, the ability to help in whichever way I can in the engineering and construction of this water infrastructure. So I thought, well, I'm going to put up my intention to help here, and which I signed an MOU. And Lilongwe Water Board later wrote and said, well, we saw you've written the MOU, but we will still have to invite others so that you can compete. But this is what we call closed tender. A closed tender means a few companies will be invited. I'm told it was 7 companies that were invited by the Lilongwe Water Board. We were among the 7 invited. I think 5 or 4 were able to meet the deadline. And we won, and fairly so. I was there when we submitted the document. I can tell you, if anyone doubts about our ability to have won this fairly, they simply have to order an audit. There are many reputable audit companies in the world. They don't have to get the ones in Malawi. They can get to UK or anyone to go and audit. Firstly, you check the scope. That Lilongwe Water Board had said that this is the project and this is the project scope. And we were responding to the project scope. The project scope was very clear. It's the offtake, the water treatment plant, and the pump stations. We have to explain how we intend to pump water from the base of the water to climb up a kilometer or 800 meters, almost a kilometer up, until it gets to Kanengo. We've applied our engineering abilities there. Source of power, we've written that because that's also in the scope. I think the document was the best document that...
You did not talk to the president or anyone else about getting the job?
Not at all, and even if I did, the Lilongwe Water Board would have to check whether we... That's why I'm talking about auditing, where somebody has a doubt. I mean, I have met the president, but not to talk about the tender. Not at all. The president has mentioned about Lilongwe's water woes, which he did have big concerns, of course. I've also talked to Jaquera, the opposition leader, who has also told me that he was worried about the shortages of water. I've also talked to, who is this, Chihana, who happens to have been my classmate, not my classmate, he was junior to me when we were at St. John Bosco. But I also talked to him. He was also concerned. I've talked to everybody in Malawi. They were all concerned. And really, the insinuation that the president could have been involved, I mean, how? I mean, Khato is a formidable company that gets big works. And if the president wouldn't influence anything of that sort, if we were unable to get the job, we would have simply fallen off.
The 500 million, what is the source of this money? And will Malawians at some point have to pay back?
Of course, this is their infrastructure. It's the infrastructure from Lilongwe to Salima and whatever auxiliary components that it will have. This infrastructure is owned by Malawian people. And so therefore, they have to pay. I mean, by buying the water, by getting the water and paying for it, you are paying. So it's not like they'll take water. I mean, money from their pockets to pay directly, but as they consume the water, they will be also paying for the infrastructure.
And then there have been lately raised a lot of questions.
Yes.
We have Professor Wiyo, for example, at Luwana.
Yeah.
A lot of people have raised questions regarding the rationale, the feasibility, and also on the costing. And you haven't really responded to these concerns.
Well, we in engineering, construction management, we don't do that. That's a no for an engineer to be a megaphone diplomat. Where you have concerns about a project as an engineer, you make an effort to contact those that are involved and say, I am an engineer of this capability. I've heard about this, but this is what I think could be the best solution. I couldn't be responding to him. In fact, I find him very childish. He should have at least gone to the Lilongwe Water Board, met the CEO or any other officials there and say, can I see the project scope? On what basis did you ask these companies to bid? I think most of what he writes in the papers, which I quite honestly think is nonsense, he could have had the answers given to himself. But I would say any engineer that has an idea and he thinks that we can incorporate would have the decency to contact us or contact the client, in this case, Lilongwe Water Board. And in engineering, ideas are never wrong. Let me just say, ideas that may help will always be incorporated. There's no know-it-all type of approach. I think for me, he's a desktop or auditorium engineer. If he had practiced in any way, he would have known what we do. We contact each other. But we don't stand on top of a mountain and start insulting each other like that, no.
Welcome back. Now, moving on with Mr. Simbi. He's executive chairman of Khato Group. To something different now, Mr. Phiri. You have previously financially supported the ruling DPP, opposition MCP. Do you harbor any political ambitions?
I don't know what is wrong with Malawi or Malawians when somebody has a bit of money is supposed to be a politician. I'm extremely satisfied with the position I have. And I am actually satisfied that I'm able to speak to the president, I'm able to speak to the opposition leader. I wouldn't want to be a leader. I wouldn't even want my children to be in politics.
Why?
Because there aren't so many entrepreneurs. And I think I'm doing a lot to teach my children to be entrepreneurs. So I would like them to stay entrepreneurs. Everybody seems to want to be a politician, and that is not a healthiest thing for Africans. We have to understand that there can be one president at a time. So there's no point in us tearing each other apart and fighting for the same position when there are other things, other positions like business, farmers. We don't have good farmers in Malawi at all. We don't. We need people to go and become farmers. But the infrastructure has to be developed between politicians, banks, and obviously the people having the will to be farmers. Yes.
I know you have built relations with high-profile people, including President Zuma, for example, President Mutharika, as you're telling us, and opposition leader Dr. Chakwera. What do you talk about? Is that the way of trying to get favors on your business?
Not at all. I mean, you see, there is no way anyone will come to Malawi or to South Africa or to Botswana or to England for that matter. If you go into England today and you got a job for 5 billion, if you don't know Theresa May, I don't think that would be possible. Now, it is very important to know that certain things, certain jobs, you simply have to know the owners. For example, it's not to say that I have such a special relationship with President Mutharika or Zuma or Kama or anybody for that matter. I've met presidents, of course. I know these presidents, but they are people before they are presidents. You must understand this. They are just normal human beings like you and I. They have fears, they have worries, they laugh, they cry. They are human beings. There is this thing of making them superhuman beings. No, they have just been elected for their qualities, that special quality that they have. But these qualities are not only with them. These qualities are available to others also in the nation. But you accord them the respect. The kind of works and kind of projects that I've done, there is no way you can do them without authorities knowing. And the ultimate authority is definitely the president, depending on the amount of work that you are doing.
The issue of Mr. Simbi Phiri giving money or financially supporting political parties back home in Malawi, for example, the DPP, the MCP, what do they say is the money for when they are coming to seek?
Well, that's not for me to go. You see, when you give a donation, you can give a donation for the purpose of buying food, particularly. But when people say we have an election, we need funding, in the election, you don't know what they're going to use with the money. They'll do with the money. They may buy airtime to contact their supporters. They could pay for transport. They could buy food because they are far away from their homes. So, running elections is a serious business. Elections are expensive. And I think you help because people have come to ask you. I don't take money, run around and say, hey, I have money. Can you take this money? No. For example, it's Malawi Congress Party that came first to me because these are the people that knew me first. And the DPP, they knew me late. And no one had ever come from DPP to say, Phiri, help us. I was not going to go there and run around and say, oh, DPP, I have money here. We don't do that. People approach you. We have this need. Can you help? I would. And I would do that for anybody for that matter.
For anybody?
This is the spirit that I have been introduced to in the life at least I have lived here. If somebody asks for funding, you help them.
And I'm sitting here and looking at the feat you have achieved in terms of investment, multi-billion kwacha investment, for example, and various other huge projects. And I know people ask questions, this cannot be a Malawian doing this. What do you make of all that? How does that make you feel?
I feel sad because, you see, I don't think, why should a Malawian not be able to do things? What is the case for Malawians that when you are a Malawian, you are meant to be a garden boy? That Malawians are meant to work in the municipalities of South Africa or Zimbabwe or Zambia? It makes me very angry. And when you have these qualifications and you really started to understand how things work, because this is the difference. At least I can say so of myself, I started to understand how things work in the areas that I wanted to go and participate. That is engineering and construction. So when I came out, I knew if I'm not employed, I will employ. I'll create the employment. I mean, that for me is education. So there are many Malawians who have been educated. Kamuzbanda, for example. What would you make of him? I mean, Mutharika himself was a professor at well-renowned universities in America, and he was a successful professor of law. And many other Malawians. I know a friend of mine, Jotham Kotamo, is in London. He has been a very good investment finance manager at Bank of Botswana. In the 80s, we were together in Gaborone. He went on to HSBC. He worked for the World Bank, PTA Bank in Nairobi, and Harare World Bank, then went to HSBC in London, and where he is now. these are Malawians who have understood how things work. I'm just among them, and there are many, you know. So it really makes me angry that when people say a Malawian, and it's not only Malawians who would say this, even people in South Africa, they get surprised when they come to know that this work is being done by me, or this whole company is directed and managed by my stewardship. And I'm like, what is it that is Malawian that people should look down on Malawians? Or is it Malawians look down on themselves? This is what I don't understand. But for me, it's natural in what I've learned in my life, yes.
Mr. Phiri, it's been a pleasure to have you on the program today, but perhaps any last words? We've discussed on the water project and your investments. Any last words?
Well, just to say, let's build Malawi. Malawi is not a wealthy country, but poverty should not mean not having food. Poverty should not mean having no clean water. Poverty should not mean not having a blanket or iron sheets on your roof. Surely we have poverty-stricken people, indigent people in South Africa. But at least when they are on the street, they don't wear the poverty. So let's reach that level where we have enough food, we have clean water, we have medicines, and systems of running our government where shrinkage and stealing is curtailed. And I think if we can do that, we can be content and still be proud people, but not the richest in the world. Yeah.
Back to the water project. We know the systems are all old and archaic, and you are coming with fresh technologies, for example. What technologies are you bringing, and how do you intend to integrate them so that we have the whole system working?
Oh, beautiful. No, that's a question that I was expecting from you. But anyway, now that you have asked it, can I just give you the... this infrastructure includes the water offtake in the lake itself, into the holding reservoirs, and then the treatment plant. We gotta have this water treated and then pumped into reservoirs. And from there, the reservoirs have to now have the pumps to pump the water uphill all the way to Lilongwe. Now, that's the infrastructure. And in Lilongwe, we will also have some reservoirs we're going to build across Lilongwe itself. Now, you then have to trench. I think this is the most difficult part. I can understand most people saying, how are you going to do it in the shortest time? Because they are thinking of a mechanized haul as that of an excavator. We're not going to use excavator. Excavators will be used to lower down pipes into the trench. We're going to use trenchers. A trencher in hard rock will do at least 1 kilometer. That is granite hard. It's 1 kilometer a day. In soft soil or soil, any kind of soil, 3 kilometers, 4 kilometers, easy. Now, these two particular machines we have employed in this project are the 1675 Tasmanic trenchers, very powerful, nicknamed rock eaters. One will start in Salima and the other at Kanengo. They will meet each other halfway. Now, this is the most difficult part, and that is why most of those who are pouring cold water on this project, they are thinking of a hoe or a mechanized hoe in the sense of an excavator. No. We have employed the latest technology, the very best the world has now anywhere on earth. So these are $2 million, and I've already paid.
With your money?
With my, of course, my money to be refunded. But I've outlaid it because of trying not to delay. So 2 trenchers are on the way to Malawi. The components have already gone. The others had stopped there were some other problems that had come, and they said we need to pop up the bridges and other things. So in Zimbabwe, so we're doing exactly that in popping up the bridges, and we will then be passing. This is like 90 ton per machine. So if you take with the truck, that's 140 tons. So that's why a lot of popping up of the bridges has to be done. Yeah, so we've got that, and we will have also to put up the batching plants for cementation. As you would know that we don't have ready-mix companies, ready-mix cement in Malawi. If they do, we may not have to buy the batching plant, but if not, we'll have to buy it because we have to make specific cement. It's not cement you just buy from Dangote and mix up with sand. No, this is specific. So therefore, it has to be made to the specific given by the engineers. So yeah, it's those. You have obviously the D10s, D12s. You have tipper trucks, obviously big tipper trucks. Looking at the terrain there, we're following the servitude.
Yes.
Although
actually, I was going to ask. What about villages along the pathway to Lilongwe? Are you only minding about people in town?
That will be very minimal because we are following the servitude. The servitude is already declared government land. And in the servitude, there's not much EIA to be done there because this is meant for infrastructure, government infrastructure. So
I mean specifically on the product, water.
Yeah.
Will you let water pass the poor villages that don't have water at all, considering people in Lilongwe?
Not at all. We will have valves to allow any branching of water anywhere where the client wants. I mean, we know that water has to go to Nkhotakota, has to go south of Salima, has to be water at where's the army place there? Where there's in between Lilongwe and Mvelani. Yeah, and also to give some water to Nchisi and Doa. There will be valves that will be installed, and when reticulation is ready to take water to such towns, it will be made easy. So it's not a big deal to do that.
And how many people are you looking to employ on the project?
We estimate, because this project is not different from the one you've seen in Guyana. We've employed there more than 7,000 people in total with our subcontractors and all of that. So we're looking at the minimum of 4,000 to 5,000 people will be employed, definitely.
Well, Mr. Simbi, it's been a pleasure to have you on the program, and thank you so much for giving us time to talk to you.
You're welcome. Thank you so much. Thank you.